Welcome to PhotoshopUser TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
All right, zip drive. Hi everyone, welcome to PhotoshopUser TV, live election coverage here at, no, I'm just kidding.
We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that, no, because we don't have any information at all. We don't know what's going on. But welcome, I am Corey Barker, and with me today is Mr. Dave Cross.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. So, and also over in the weather station, naturally, is Mr. Pete Collins. Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to see you. Oh, over here. Hey guys.
So we are glad you're back, glad to join us. We are brought to you by Photoshop User Magazine, or the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, who bring you Photoshop User Magazine. This fine issue right here that he is holding. So, how are you?
Excellent. Thank you for asking.
Yes, excellent. So, we have a lot of things covered today. We've got extensive election coverage all over the country. We've got correspondents everywhere, including Canada, for no reason at all.
Right.
But we're going to dive right in first and get into the real meat of stuff, and that's Photoshop. So, may I go?
I would be happy if you did. Wait, officially, we're going to have to throw to you. So
I'm not playing a piano. he's over there doing this. Apparently, my IVGA is not working. So while we jump over to our correspondent in D.C., I will launch this. I'm only kidding.
Well, we could go to Scott Kelby's in Boston and R.C. and Matt are in.
Yes, that's true. We could. Where are the other guys? Yes, Scott is actually
Monument Valley or something.
In Boston doing a what is it? Photoshop CS4 Photographers Tour. Matt and RC are way out in Monument Valley doing a workshop, Photoshop. Photography.
that other thing that goes with
That
Photoshop.
other thing that goes with Photoshop. And they've been posting some images. There's actually some pretty impressive stuff out there.
It's one of those places I've always wanted to go, but it's never found the time.
Yeah, but they get up so early. I mean, that's the one. Every time you guys, I hear you guys going on these photography workshops and everything like that, and it sounds really cool, but then they're like, yeah, we get up at 4 a.m. to go get a sunset. I'm like, yeah. That's okay. I'll just draw a sunset in my room while I'm eating breakfast. Speaking of that, so I'm going to dive right in.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, no, I was, but now I have to do 3D. I don't have to, but I'm going to. But yeah, I got a quick 3D thing. I got some people asking about beveling, how you can do really enhanced beveling in Photoshop, because previously, when you wanted to create a bevel on text or something like that, you would use layer styles. And really, this is just faking a bevel because real bevels have just like carved edges. And you're just kind of creating that look with a layer style in 2 dimensions. Well, in 3D in Photoshop, you can actually do it for real. So I've got an image here. I'm going to actually make my background black. And I'm going to go and get a custom shape. I'm just going to do this X right here. Now, I could type an X, but why? I'm just going to draw one out. I just like this one because it's nice and big and thick and everything like that. It's perfect for what I want to do here. So, creating a new layer, I'm going to fill it with 50% gray. And then with the path or shape selected, I'm just going to go to 3D, new 3D extrusion from selected path. And we have, actually I'll turn this background off so you can see. So there's my 3D X. See? Cool? Yes? Everyone? All right. So, the first thing is the extrusion is way too deep. It's 634. I'm just going to make it 100. So it makes it not quite, see, it's a little bit better. All right. But with that layer 1 selected here in the 3D panel, I'm going to jump over to the properties panel, because whatever you have selected in the 3D panel, the settings are over here in the properties panel. That's why I keep them side by side like this. Now up top you have 3 tabs up here. I'm going to go over to Cap. And this is where you can do the beveling and such. So I'm going to go over here in the width, which is default to 0. I'm going to increase this, and you'll notice that it gets larger and larger and larger. Now this is actually doing a bevel. It's not like a layer style where it's creating that illusion. If I went and rotated this, you can see it actually protrudes that out like that. But I don't want just a straight bevel like that. I actually want to change its contour. Now, if you are familiar with layer styles and doing beveling, you're familiar with this little icon right here, the contour. Well, if I click on that, it opens up the contour editor. Now, what I love about this is that you see the changes happen as you make them. So I'm actually going to add a control point to the path here and just angle that up and bring this one down here. And I'm going to add corner to that, so it gives me a little bit of an edge there. And we'll do another one here. and do corner there.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's like magic.
So now what it's doing is, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So you see this contour shape. I've just got like, you know, 2 little humps going on there. And if I click OK and rotate this again, you can see that that hump is mirrored in that beveling. So I get multiple stages of this. You know, and you can play with different shapes of this, modifying those contours like that, just by going in here and even saving a preset. If you've gone and created a really cool custom bevel shape, you can go ahead and save it as a preset and use it again. But there's my beveling. So let's add some texture to this to give it a little bit more cool factor. So I'm going to go and, well, let's first change the color. So I'm going to go back. I used gray just so I could see the changes happening here. But now I'm going to go into those texture files and fill them with black and make everything disappear. Pretty cool? No. All right. But here's the cool part. I'm going to go into the environment settings here. Very top item here in the 3D panel. And then over here in the properties panel, we have this little item at the very top for IBL, which is image-based light. So I'm going to go into that little folder icon here and choose Load Texture. And on my desktop here, I have just a simple brushed Chrome file here that I got off of Fotolia. And click Open. It's going to think about it. And this is basically puts the image in the environment, basically surrounding the graphic with that. And when I add reflective properties to this, we'll make it look more realistic. So I'm going to go and select the front inflation and boost the reflection to 100%. We'll do the same with the bevel. Now each surface has its own properties, so you go and select each one, and I'm going to boost the reflection for each one of these and look at what we're getting now. Now the reason why I like to use image-based lights is that when you apply an environment map, you'd have to move the object around to see the environment change. But in this case, you can actually move the environment itself around. And you can see how it's affecting on that surface there. So now I can just move this around and see I've got much more stylized beveling going on here. So that's just a really quick tip of don't just take the beveling as it is. You can go in there and edit it and create multiple levels. And then once you add the reflections, you've got something really, really cool. And you can, again, save those presets. You can save the shape as a preset. You can save the texture as a preset. So a lot of really interesting things to experiment with 3D, isn't it?
I think that last thing you said is really important because anytime you can save a preset, especially if you come up with something where it took you some steps to get to that,
absolutely, yeah.
Then to me, there's no harm in saving a preset.
No.
You know, you just have a longer list to pick from. But if you find something that's even remotely cool, save it as a preset.
Well, and I think the beauty
on it, right?
The beauty of presets in Photoshop is that even if you go and apply a previous preset, you can go and modify it. You know, it doesn't lock you in and say that you have to stick with this. No, you can go in there and slightly modify it and make it cater to whatever you're doing there. So.
Very cool.
Lovely.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I've got a little tip, and Pete's got something else, and we got other stuff, and you know.
We're going to have some poll results coming up.
Stuff.
Yep.
So come on back, won't you?
Right here.
That's always
that
fun.
was good. Oh, yeah. We
Too
just
bad
came
you
back
couldn't have seen that.
Yeah, you missed that. Pete asked me if I could do something to that 3D object I just created, and as I was doing it, Photoshop crashed. So,
So it was like, nope, the answer
so
would be
that
no.
would be a no. So, all right.
Hey, did you see the new thing that MPix has, that app for the phone to print
You know,
your
I've heard about that. I haven't had a chance to look at it.
It's really cool. It's
Yeah.
for all those people that have 1 million photographs on their phone and they want to get a print. There's a free app you can get, and you just say, I want this as a 4x6, and you have a little crop tool, and then you hit send, and it goes. Yeah, I mean, you have to have an MPix account, so if you don't, it's a good reason to get one.
That's
but
one of those things, though, that you say, well, why didn't they think of that sooner? You know,
that was
what?
exactly my impression. I mean, I have so many photos on there that right now I'm like, well, I'll email it to myself, and then on this way, you just want to print, you just hit it.
Well, I mean, the phone is the new point-and-shoot camera.
Well, and Matt made such a great point is that we're using the phone to capture those events, and it's really the memory and the history of it. And so if you leave it on your phone, we all know the chance that we could lose our phone, break our phone, have it stolen or whatever. So go ahead, and having that app allows you to go ahead and have another copy of it already documented and squared away. It's a great idea.
Just the other day, I backed up my iPhone on my computer. I didn't realize, I thought I had a lot of photos. I had 18 gigs worth of photos and video. I have the 64 gig 4S, and 18 gigs of that was photos and video that I had shot. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So be careful with that. Make sure you back it up if you have that many photos.
So I can't off the top of my head remember the name of it, but if you look on the MPix site, I'm sure you can find their free app. It's pretty darn cool.
I tell you what, I will look for it.
Yeah, thank you.
Since my Photoshop crashed, I have nothing to do. So.
That would be great.
All right.
Well, meanwhile, while he's doing that, I have a suggestion for those of you that need to restore old photographs. And I'm not talking as much at this point about if you have one that's all got cracks and tears, but if you have one that looks more like this, if you look at my screen, you'll see it's just old and faded and has lots of specks of dust and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the point. Although if you did have a photo with tears in it, you could fix those first, save it as a JPEG, and then do this. And the real kind of tip I want to give you is don't overlook Camera Raw as an option to fix old photographs. People think of RAW for either files in Camera Raw format or opening a JPEG, but check this out. This is pretty cool, I think. So I'm just going to open it in RAW. I just hit Command and Control R for open in RAW. And then it's just using regular sliders. So I say I want to change the exposure and the contrast, and maybe I'll just change the color tint, or maybe even just lower the saturation to get rid of that sort of sepia tone. But I want more black. I want better whites. So I'm just using kind of standard Camera Raw abilities, but look, I mean, that's already an improvement from what I had before just by moving a few sliders. Let's put it to 100% view. Of course, one of the other problems that I face with old photos is we get those little kind of specks that suddenly occurred to me kind of resemble noise. So why not go into the detail tab and just use the noise reduction tab? And all of a sudden, look at that. Look at how it's just getting rid of all that little texture that was in there. And you can even do a little bit of sharpening. So all this, I haven't done anything yet except just going in and moving some sliders in Camera Raw and saying, that looks pretty good. I think I want to make it just a little more contrast, maybe. And then I'll just open it. And I already opened a previous version, just the regular.
You ropened.
I ropened. No, I didn't ropen that one because that's just the regular JPEG. So look at the difference between the two. Let's
Already, wow.
go look at it a little closer up here. Just by only doing Camera Raw, I mean, the difference is pretty remarkable.
Quite.
Now, the other thing that you might have heard that I like to do is use smart objects. So I have my Camera Raw set to open as a smart object, which means I can then build on this one step further by using smart filters. So here's a filter that I used to use a long time ago and sort of gave up on, called Dust and Scratches, because the problem with it was you had to select all the areas first. Yeah. Here, you can do Dust and Scratches to the whole photograph. So I'm going to do it just enough to try and get rid of all those little scratches that I saw before. Try to make this just right about, say, there. And because it's a smart filter, there it is right there. I invert the mask to fill with black. Now I just take my paintbrush, make a little small brush. I don't have my tablet with me, but if I did, it would be even easier. And then I can just kind of go over and click with white paint on all the little nasty things that are distracting me. So I'm just kind of, in effect, painting with the Dust and Scratches filter. So that combination of starting in Camera Raw and then doing a smart filter to paint over the little glitches can really speed up your work when you're doing some restoration.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
I still use
That's
dusty
great.
scratchers, actually. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
and it's one of those age-old filters. It's been in
It
there
really
for a
is, but
while.
I just like this idea of going to the whole photograph, filling with black, and then you just take the paintbrush and you literally go, okay, here, and you're not, it's just so much quicker to go through and fix up all the little
Well, because we've
issues.
used that kind of same workflow with retouching skin and stuff like that, but
Exactly.
I haven't even thought about using it to hit the dust and
Well,
stuff.
the
That's
thing
great.
that really struck me the most was when I looked at a photograph that just looked kind of noisy, and I thought, wait a minute, reduce noise, and the reduced noise filter in camera is so much better than Photoshop's noise reduction. I've used that quite a few times, and I figure I give myself a huge head start on fixing up an old photograph.
I just never, I mean, for me personally, I never used RAW that much just because I never, was shooting a lot. But, I'm discovering more and more after I see stuff like this that you can use RAW for so much more. I mean, there's the tools in it are
Yeah,
very...
well, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing to me is it's just easier.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you want to go in and say, okay, exposure, black, white, as opposed to what, curves, and you try and figure out where to drag things. I just like using RAW because it's more straightforward.
You can almost sell RAW as
Well,
a product.
and one thing to remember is that if you're a Lightroom user, it's the exact same engine in Lightroom.
Right.
All the sliders and everything are exact same, so it translates exactly to Lightroom as well. So either one is a great place to go do that adjustment and then bring it in and mess with it.
True.
All right, so we have Pete with our feature tutorial in just a moment. But before we do that, I just wanted to show you real quick. I found, if you show up my screen
that's
here,
what it's called.
found the app that Dave had mentioned a moment ago. MPix Tap to Print is the name of the app, as you see right here. And it's a free app, of course. Look for the big M. Can't be that hard. But that actually looks pretty cool. You can just go in here. It looks like it's got a relatively easy interface.
Yeah.
And you can edit your photo, it
Yeah, you
looks
can
like,
do a
as
little
well.
cropping.
Do a little bit of cropping.
And then just
and
add it to your cart. It's pretty cool.
Very, very cool stuff.
I'm actually
Again,
waiting for my first prints to come back from the first ones. that I
Again,
saw.
remember, as I think you said, you have to have an MPix account as well. So be sure to go ahead and set that up before you go and get the app. So
So you're thinking someday your prints will come? Sorry, that was bad. That was bad. I admit it.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to take a break.
So Pete was going to do a tutorial. No, please. What do you have?
All right, well, this was something that I put up on the NAP website last week. If you are not a NAP member, you should definitely go check it out. We have new tutorials weekly. We have all kinds of stuff up there. As a matter of fact, this Friday coming up, Dave, if you hold up the cover of Photoshop User Magazine again, we're going to have a written tutorial about the magazine that Chuck Ubaley did. I'm sorry, I'm killing his name, but he's going to walk you through what he's done to create that magazine cover. So check out NAP website. It's one of the great things that comes with your NAP membership. Okay, on there I talked about using Bridge. And a lot of y'all know that Matt and Scott and them tend to be more photography based, and so they love doing Lightroom and stuff like that. But for people that use graphic images, stock photography, Bridge is where you're going to go a lot of the time. And so what I want to do is give you a quick idea of how you can help streamline your workflow when you're dealing with stock images. If we take a look at my computer, here I've got this one category, and it's called keys. And as you can see in here, I've got these different sets of keys that I've gotten from iStock and Fotolia. And what I'm going to need to do before I can really use these is probably I'm going to need to create a selection and take them off that white background. Well, this is where doing something and saving it as an action is really going to speed up the process for the future, because I know over and over again I'm going to need to separate stuff from a white background. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on one of the key sets, and I'm just going to bring it right up here. And now, for those of you that aren't familiar with actions, you're basically just recording what you're doing in Photoshop so that then you can play it over again and apply those same actions to whatever you're using again. So you're going to want to come up to Window. You're going to want to click on Actions to bring up this Actions panel here. Now, for those of you that remember the old tape recorder days, this acts just like a tape recorder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the second icon from the right and say New Action, and I'm just going to call this Color Select, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the color selecting to be able to get rid of the white background. Well, I'm also going to give it a function key that I can go to it quickly, and I'm just going to use F15. And now once I hit this record button right there, down here on the Actions panel, you'll see this red record button lights up. So now we know everything that I'm going to do is going to be recorded. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to Select menu, and I'm going to go Color Range. And what I've got here is I'm going to choose to select the white background, because that's what I'm going to want to select over and over again. And you can change the fuzziness. It determines how precise it's choosing and what it's eliminating between the white and the other colors. And I like it somewhere around 65, 70, something about like that. And then I just simply hit OK. Now, if you see, it's created a selection of all the white areas. The thing is, I want to select the keys and not the white area, so I'm simply going to hit Command-Shift-I, and I'm going to invert that selection. I could do it just as easily by coming up here to Select and hitting Inverse, but now my selection is around each of these keys. Now, Color Range does a pretty good job of making a selection, but a lot of times you'll get these little goobers where it just has a little tough time in some of these little transitions from white to the object. So what I always like to do is now come up to Select, Modify, and I do Contract. Now this only works if I've made the selection around the object and not the white background, because if I contract that, it's going to be a little funky. But since it's a small, precise object, I'm only going to contract by about 1 pixel. I usually go between 1 or 2 pixels when I'm doing this, and then I just hit OK. And what that's done is it's moved the selection in by 1 pixel. It's just kind of tucked it in slightly. And a lot of times that will get rid of those little white jaggies that you have when you're making a selection. Okay, if you'll notice here, it's recorded color range, inverse, contract. Everything's good so far. Now you'll see when it made that selection, where there's some white highlights, it's actually caused some problems there. We'll take care of that in a minute. We don't want to do any fixing with these objects right now while we're recording, because then it would apply that to everything we do afterwards. So I'm just simply now going to hit Command or Control J and create a copy of those keys. Now you'll see if I turn off the background layer, you see the keys are the only thing that's left. But I want to make sure that everything looks pretty good, so what I'm going to do is I am going to now create a new blank layer above background. Since I had chosen the background layer, it puts it above it, and I'm going to fill it with black. Now here I hit the wrong button. It said fill, and I accidentally filled it with white. Here's the thing you can do. I turn off my recording by hitting the stop button. I come to that fill marker, that layer, and I just drag it to the trash can. Now I turn back on the record, and it's as if I didn't do that action at all. I'm going to fill it with black. Now I can see how good a job the selection did. The thing I like about this is now I've got a visual representation of the fact that I went from a white background to a dark background. Why is this important? Well, when I go back over into Bridge, it's going to have a visual indicator of the fact, okay, I've already taken out the background of this. Whereas if I see one with just a white background, I know that I'm probably going to need to remove that background. So when you're working, you've got a lot of files. If you need to find one that you've already got the background removed, seeing a black background versus a white background is going to help you find it much more quickly. Okay, now that we see we have a couple quick problems here, I'm just going to simply turn off the recording because I've already made it. Actually, I lied. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to hit save. It's going to say, you want to do that? Yep. And now I'm going to turn off my recording. Now, real quickly, since I'm working on this file, I'm going to make a quick adjustment. I get my white brush and I make sure all my settings are correct, because what happened when I did the color range selection, it took out all the white everywhere. Well, we know we had some highlights in here, and because I'm painting underneath the key selection here, I'm just going to come in and paint those highlights back in real quickly. If I mess up, I can simply come and erase it or undo. I'm going to just undo it and just be a little more precise. And in just a moment, I can knock back in all these little highlight areas for the keys. I'm not going to go ahead and fix all that for you right now, but once I'm done, I close that out and I come back over here, and now if we look at the bridge, we can see here's the before and here's the after. The great thing is I can now get rid of the original. I've still got the original in this layered Photoshop file, but I can tell that it's already cut out and ready to go. Well, that's a great thing to know just right there. If I ever want to come up, let's say I have this right here, I come in, I click on it. Now, if I wanted to, I could simply run from right here or hit F16. If I hit plus, run the action, it does it automatically for me right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here, and now I'm going to take, this is where it's really going to speed up in Bridge. Let's say I had 20 of these with a white background. I simply choose all of them. I must choose that one. Let me get rid of this one. Pretend I didn't do that. Let's get rid of that right here. And now I select all 3 of these, and instead of having to go back into Photoshop, I've got all 3 of these selected. I come up to one of my favorite menus in Bridge is Tools, because now I can go to Photoshop and I can hit Batch. Now default actions, the last thing I just did in actions is going to be set right there, and I hit OK, and it's just going to run through these 3 right here, bam, 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 and it's going to do everything I just did with that first file. And now if I go back over to Bridge, you'll see that every one of those with a white background has now been converted to ones that's already been cut out with a black background. So I can get rid of those 3 right there. And now, whereas I had a file full of stock images with white backgrounds that I had to remove, now I've got, in no time at all, a file full of images that are already separated out, ready to use. And so be aware that using Bridge is going to save you a lot of time and trouble. If you've got a lot of stock photography of stuff that you need to go to over and over again, combined with the power of actions in Photoshop, it's going to save you a tremendous amount of time. Go in there and play, and don't let actions scare you, because it seems like sometimes you can mess up. Anytime you mess up in actions, just hit stop record, get rid of the stuff that you messed up on, start record again, and fix it, try it again, and trial and error, you'll get there. You'll figure out what you need to do to create stuff like this, and it'll streamline your whole workflow.
You are the key master.
I am the gatekeeper.
Okay. I have to say, I was just going to say that, actions, it still seems like it's one of those most underutilized things. And
I really believe that is the case. When I was teaching seminars all the time, I'd ask that question, how many people are using actions, and it would be maybe 10%.
Right.
And then I'd say, well, how many people don't know what actions are? And it was like 5%. So it's like everyone knows what actions are, but I think the problem is they need to see things like that to show here's a fairly straightforward, practical use you can use every day. It's not a way to turn your text into peppermint twists or something like some actions. It's actually practical.
I get the vibe that some people think it has to be a long, drawn-out action. I mean, I've had actions that have 2 or 3 steps.
Right.
It's just common things I do all the time. And just assign a hotkey to it. And it's just bam, you're done.
Well, and what usually happens when people try to play with actions is they make a mistake, or they record an extra step, or they miss a step, and it doesn't work how they think it should, and so they just close it, think, oh, this doesn't work. Whereas if you will get in there and play and try some simple ones and build up. One of the great places I like to go is Photo Exchange, Adobe Exchange, because other people have made actions that you can then download for free from Adobe and then apply them and see how they work. And you can learn by looking at the steps they've made.
You're right. It is one of those features that's got a lot of gotchas, but it's just getting over that frustration and saying, well, why is it not working? Oh, then you just figure that out. So, all right, let's take another quick break. We'll come back. We've got a few giveaways. We've got some cool prizes this week, actually, I believe. And a few more things. We'll wrap things up. Stay with us.
At Adorama, our trained staff share your love of photography and can help you find what you're looking for. Our inventory is stocked with all types of cameras and accessories you need. Adorama has it all. Adorama, more than just a camera store. Visit us at 42 West 18th or at adorama.com.
All right, we are back, and we've got some fantabulous prizes for you. And things have changed slightly on how you enter. So, Pete, how do they enter this contest?
No, wait a minute. I'm supposed to sit over here in the weather station and just look pretty. Y'all are supposed to keep track of how to do these things. Actually,
I have the page up. So
all right, yes, Corey. Yeah. Hey, Corey, how do we do it?
All right, no. You go to kelbytv.com/contest. As you can see in right here, just going to go into the little pull-down menu and choose Photoshop User TV. Enter your name, email, website if you wish, and a comment. Tell us a joke. Put a request in. Tell us how much you missed the rest of the guys. Anything. We're just going to pick the winner at random. And if you are that lucky individual, you will receive, first, this copy of HDR Effects Pro from Nik Software. This is an extraordinarily popular plugin. You guys use this a lot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't use it as much as, say, RC or Matt because they're the HDR pros.
Yeah.
I dabble.
RC definitely does use it.
But it's a great plugin.
Actually, it produces some really great effects. And we also have, to carry it around in, this fantastic knapsack. I still had to do that joke, I'm sorry. This cool bag, it's an official NAP bag. So if you're not a NAP member, you get a benefit that you shouldn't be getting. But if you do get it, it'll give you a reason to join NAP. So you'll get these two fabulous prizes just by going and entering and telling us something funny. Tell us who you voted for. No, don't tell us that. And those kind of things. And Dave, you have a little something to share as well.
Well, I thought, you know, because some people remember the good old days of Photoshop User TV where we'd actually ask a trivia
an actual trivia question, yes.
That they had to answer. Now you can just leave a comment. But I have this little thing called the Photoshop Quiz Game. It's a fun little app. And so here's a question from that, just for fun. True or false? When you duplicate a smart object, any changes you make to the contents of the smart object will affect both copies, true or false. And there's no thing for prize for winning that. That's just a fun thing for those of you that missed the good old days of having some trivia from the Photoshop Quiz Game available today.
You got quite a few. Would you say like 600 questions?
600 questions, true and false, multiple choice, multiple guess.
How long did that take you to compile?
A bit.
A bit, yeah. Wow. I mean, that's.
I've had them. I mean, I've been doing that for a long time just for fun. So a lot of it was funny. I'd do get to 300 and go, I can't get any more, and all of a sudden I'd go on a roll and get well, now I'm close to 400. So before I knew it, 600.
So check that out at the App Store. Be sure to join us again. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, that was
so I do believe that.
That was kind of a wrap-up show.
Yeah, I kind of wrapped it up in too many different ways, too many different directions. All right, so once again, thank you guys for joining us. If you stick with us just a few minutes, we're going to be doing another episode here momentarily. But thank you, Pete.
Yep.
For that.
It's good to be here.
Mr. Cross, thank you.
No problem. See you next time.
So we will see you very soon. In fact, cut. No. All right, take care, guys. We'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.